Hello and welcome to another video. My name is CJ, the Populist New Yorker, and today we're going to be determining how we can roughly guess with a fair amount of certainty on election night who will win the election if there is no declared winner yet. So effectively, we're going to be looking at the states that are already called on election night to kind of get a sense of who is likely to win in the coming days. Now, a lot of people have been saying that we might not have a winner on election night in 2020. There were a lot of people that said that in 2016 as well, but this time I think it's only slightly more likely because we do have the whole mail-in ballot thing, which is going to definitely slow down the process quite a bit, especially if there are some states that are accepting ballots after the election. So we're basically going to be looking at this really cool map by 538. Basically, that measures the chances of a Trump or Biden victory given the circumstances. Now, right now, they have Biden at an 88% chance to win. I think that is much, much, much too high. So effectively, we could turn this around by calling states for either of the candidates positively. So we can call all of the safe blue states for Biden on this map, which will change things up significantly. See, it keeps Biden's chances relatively the same. But if we call all of these states for Biden that he's going to win anyway, most likely, that gets a lot out of the way. So now it has Biden at a 91% chance of winning with all of these safe blue states called, which doesn't really make a whole lot of sense because these states are going to be called anyway, Vermont as well, and probably the state of Maine too, if we're being honest, will probably be called for Biden. Now we're going to call all of the red states. These are the states that Trump is going to win no matter what. And, you know, some of the polls in some of these states are a bit off. And the reason that is because polling in safe states is very hard to get an accurate sample size of the population. We're also going to be calling some states that I've already determined to be most likely going to the Republicans. That is Iowa, Ohio, Georgia, Texas. The amount of which they go to Republicans is irrelevant as long as Trump has those electoral votes. He's now at a 26% chance to win. So this is where, if this is election night right now, and Trump is leading in North Carolina, he's leading in Florida, he has around a quarter of a chance of winning. Now, if we call a state like North Carolina on election night for Donald Trump, that chance jumps up to just more than a third. If we call Florida on election night, then the odds are almost even. Trump 43, Biden 53. So if on election night for whatever reason we go to bed with this being the election map, Biden has a slight advantage, but it's very possible that Trump could, pick up a state like Pennsylvania, for instance, which would win him the election effectively. I mean, this has him at it's still loading. This has him at 265 definite electoral votes, so all he would need is a state like Wisconsin, and he would win the presidency. I don't think the Rust Belt states are being called on election night. I think they're going to be much too close. Even if Trump does manage to actually win them, I think it's still going to be too close. But we'll reset the map for a second. If, for example, now we'll call all the same states again, but we're going to do this same scenario, but in terms of Biden, because it is kind of likely that we see a scenario where we don't have an exact winner on election night. So with these states called, we'll call these states for Biden, we can get a good perspective on who's going to win the election based on that. So if we call the state of Nevada on election night, and let's say we call the state of Iowa for Trump, we call Ohio for Trump, that puts Trump at a 16% chance of winning. If we call the state of North Carolina for Joe Biden, Trump is effectively over. Now, Biden's only at 109 electoral votes. Let's just fill out all of these real quick. Actually, we'll just leave that for now. But we'll call all of the safe states for Biden, because effectively, North Carolina is to the right of a lot of these states. So what it's implying is if North Carolina goes blue, so will all these other states. Joe Biden's at 212 right now. He's leading in states like Virginia, which we have to call for him. We also have Michigan, Minnesota, Pennsylvania. So we could very well see a map like this. Now if we let's just call Texas for Trump, Georgia for Trump, and we could go to sleep with an election night like this. Now, in this case, Trump still has a 36% chance of winning. However, with North Carolina going blue, I would expect the state of Florida to most likely go blue, which would basically give Joe Biden the election, because if he wins Florida, he's going to win Michigan and Wisconsin and Minnesota, which would effectively get him to 290. So, key takeaway so far, if Florida gets called for Trump, then Trump has a decent chance at winning, but it's not over 50%. If it gets called for Biden, Trump has essentially no chance to victory. So in order for Donald Trump to actually win on election night, he needs to obviously win all of his safe states. And the reason I'm focusing more on Trump in this video is because I don't have him as the favorite right now, so I'm trying to examine the paths he could have on election night. So again, if a state like North Carolina goes to Biden, if a state like Georgia goes to Biden, if a state like Florida goes to Biden, Arizona going to Biden would be bad, but it wouldn't be the end of the world. Trump could still win, but it would be much harder for him. If Arizona goes to Trump, however, Trump is still definitely in the game. Again, doesn't mean he'll win. You know, Romney won Arizona, McCain won Arizona. But effectively, if we call states like Ohio for Trump, Iowa for Trump, he's only at a 28% chance to win, mainly because these states were already projected to go to him. Now, if Ohio goes to Joe Biden, Trump has virtually no chance of winning because Ohio voted to the right of nearly all of these states. Trump cannot lose Ohio. He can't lose Iowa either. Definitely can't lose Georgia. Definitely can't lose North Carolina. For Joe Biden, he can't really afford to lose any of the Rust Belt states. He could maybe afford to lose one, maybe Wisconsin. If we give Wisconsin to Trump, we give Florida to Trump, Texas to Trump, Georgia to Trump, and North Carolina to Trump. We still see that Joe Biden still has an advantage because he could still win Michigan, he could still win Pennsylvania, and of course all of his safe states to secure a narrow victory in that way. So effectively, the key takeaways from this video, if we just reset the map, and I'll leave the map in the link so you guys can play around with it. But just to keep this video fairly short, Trump, if any of the states like Georgia go to Biden, North Carolina, Florida, Ohio, Iowa, Trump is effectively doomed. If a state like Pennsylvania somehow gets called on election night, he's done. I don't think we're going to see a Joe Biden loss on election night just because of the electoral map, unless it is a total blowout for Trump. If they actually do call one of the Rust Belt states, then it's actually somewhat likely we could see a Trump victory on election night. But it's very, very narrow. And again, given the circumstances, Biden is still the clear favorite. You know, even though the polls are going to be off, I think especially in places like Texas and maybe Georgia, maybe not. But again, there are some crucial states that these candidates cannot lose. Biden cannot lose Pennsylvania. Trump cannot lose a lot more states on the map. So that is effectively the brief breakdown of the map here. You guys can play around with the map yourself because I could spend all night kind of just clicking and going through various states. But effectively, Trump has a lot more must-win states than Joe Biden does. And that puts him at the disadvantage on election day. The only thing there's two things Trump really has going for him that could give him victory. Number one is the enthusiasm of his base. And number two is the fact that there was a poll that came out in September that found that a majority of Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago. Those are the two biggest metrics playing in Trump's favor. Of course, Biden has COVID, Trump's general unlikability, his style of being a more standard politician is appealing to some people. So Biden has his pros, Trump has his pros as well. But again, when it comes down to election night, a winner may be unlikely. However, given the states being called that I indicated, we can get a clear idea of who's winning. If these states like North Carolina, Georgia, Florida, and not Texas so much, but if these three states, Ohio and Iowa, get called pretty early in the night, that's actually very good news for Trump. If it takes a lot longer to call these states, it's better news for Biden, which means that either Trump is winning them more narrowly, or Biden wins them very narrowly. The latter is more unlikely, but it's still a possibility. But anyway, guys, that's all for today's video. Just a brief one, kind of running through the numbers here. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification so you don't miss any new videos. If you have any comments for me, leave them down below, and I will be trying to get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.